60.5. Good to hear your voice.
The burn was as close to perfect as possible. Later burns would circularize the orbit, and the 3 astronauts would circle the moon 10 times in 20 hours. Sunrise, sunset, every 2 hours on an alien world. And they would take pictures, still photographs as well as motion picture film, here seen at a much faster rate than orbital velocity.
Apollo 8, Houston, what does the old moon look like from 60 miles, over?
Okay, Houston, the moon is essentially gray, no color, looks like plaster of Paris, or sort of a grayish beach sand. We can see quite a bit of detail. The craters are all rounded off. There's quite a few of them. Some of them are newer. Many of them look like, especially the round ones, look like hit by meteorites or projectiles of some sort. Langrenus is quite a huge crater. It's got a central cone to it. The walls of the crater are terraced, about 6 or 7 different terraces on the way down.
The world saw and heard the first live telecast of the lunar surface.
Hey, Bill, how would you describe the color of the moon from here?
The color of the moon looks a very whitish gray, like dirty beach sand, and with lots of footprints in it.
Don't these new craters look like pickaxes striking concrete, leaving a lot of fine haze and dust?
Scientist, engineer, astronaut, the world, all followed the progress of Apollo 8. For this was preparation, an advanced scout marking the way for those who would follow, those who would orbit, those who would land, navigate, track, observe, record, describe.
There's no trouble picking out features that we learned on the map.
Certainly looks like we're picking the more interesting parts of the moon to land in. The backside looks like a sand pile my kids have been playing in for a long time. It's all beat up, no definition, just a lot of bumps and holes. The area that we're over right now gives some hint of possible volcanic, though I really can't eyeball it at the moment to pin that down. Though there are some craters and buildups definitely suggest volcanic activity.
Then a Christmas Eve message the world could not forget.
Welcome from the moon, Houston.
Thank you.
The moon is a different thing to each one of us. I know my own impression is that it's a vast, lonely, forbidding type existence or expanse of nothing. It looks rather like clouds and clouds of pumice stone.
Beyond technology, beyond science, Apollo 8 was bringing to the world a new awareness, an expansion of mind and spirit that must forever alter the perspective of humanity, physically and philosophically.
And from the crew of Apollo 8, we close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth.
There was little time for the crew of Apollo 8 to reflect. The next job was to make sure that the spacecraft was ready for the most critical maneuver of the mission, the firing of the service module engine for TEI, trans-Earth insertion, and the trip home. There was no go, no-go decision on this one. It had to go.
All systems are go, Apollo 8.
Thank you.
For the final time, Apollo 8 passed behind the moon, out of contact with Earth, for this most critical of all the burns. On the ground, men waited.
Apollo 8, Houston. Apollo 8, Houston. Apollo 8, Houston. Apollo 8, Houston.
Apollo 8, over.
Hello, Apollo 8. Loud and clear.
Roger. Please be informed there is a Santa Claus.
That's affirmative. You're the best ones to know.
3 very tired astronauts were on their way home. and with them rode an army of engineers, scientists, technicians, programmers, flight controllers, all those whose dedicated efforts were Apollo 8. After catching up on their rest, homeward bound, there was more a mood of elation, contrasted with the outbound loneliness.
I told Michael you guys are up there, and he said, who's driving? That's a good question. I think Isaac Newton's doing most of the driving right now.
We were enjoying the holiday, in the Christian world, Christmas, and we paused for a moment in our celebrations to watch three travelers heading home. As many of us sat down to our Christmas meal, Borman, Lovell, and Anders were enjoying theirs.
It appears that we did a grave injustice to the food people. Santa Claus brought us a TV dinner each, which is delicious. Turkey and gravy, cranberry sauce, grape punch, outstanding.
Roger, Jim. Glad to hear it. You know, we're down here eating cold coffee and bologna sandwiches.
As on the way out, there were periods of work. The navigational ability of the spacecraft and crew was proving phenomenal. And periods of rest, a single man on watch.
Well, Ken, that just leaves you or I. How about you and I? Anything exciting happen today?
Real quiet down here. Everybody's smiling. Everything's pretty calm, like it should be on Christmas.
Very good.
Yeah, Milt says we're in a period of relaxed vigilance.
Very good. We'll relax, you be vigilant.
The final television transmission, 97,000 miles out, farther than man had been on any previous mission, but now tantalizingly close to home.
I think I must have the feeling that the travelers in the old sailing ships used to have. We've gone on a very long voyage away from home, and now we're headed back, and I have that feeling of being proud of the trip, but still happy to be going back home and back to our home port.
Every second brought the spacecraft closer to its fiery entry, the final plunge to the safety of Earth. On the morning of December 27th, the word was given to Apollo 8. The pyrotechnic devices that would separate the command and service modules prior to entry were armed.
Apollo 8, Apollo 8. Your go for pyro arm. Everything's looking good.
Roger, everything's looking good here, Ken.
On schedule, the command module jettisoned the service module to expose the main heat shield, aligned itself to entry attitude, and slammed into the atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour, faster than man had ever traveled until Apollo 8. A tracking aircraft took these films of the entry, the spacecraft seen as an incandescent fireball. With the temperature on the heat shield reaching 5,000 degrees, the communications were blacked out. The men in mission control waited once more.
Ken Mattingly just put in a call and just frankly labeled it a radio check. He's gotten no responses yet. Ken Mattingly puts in another call. And there's Jim Lovell.
We're in real good shape, Houston. Real fine.
The landing was right on target. Later, Frank Borman would report passing over the recovery ship as Apollo 8 drifted down toward the sea on its parachutes. As Borman, Lovell, and Anders stepped onto the carrier deck, a huge and patriotic celebration broke loose in Mission Control. A celebration echoed by the hundreds of thousands of men and women who were Apollo 8.
Again, it's Apollo Control here. I'm not sure how well our voice is getting out. There is a tremendous roar, an undercurrent of roar in the background. And I have never seen the degree of this emotional outpouring in any previous mission, including Alan Shepard's. I've seen rallies in locker rooms after championship games. I've seen happy politicians after elections, but none of them do justice to the spirit pervading this room.
But the triumph of Apollo 8 was beyond the bounds of nationalism. It was a fruition of the ages of humanity. The first Chinese setting off a gunpowder rocket, the Englishman, Newton, the German, Kepler, the Russian, Tsiolkovsky, the American, Goddard. For one moment in history, the nations of Earth were united in the eternity of deep space. In Havana, in Washington, in London, in Moscow, in Tokyo. All of mankind joined 3 Americans, orbiting 60 miles above a stark, lifeless world.
With the success of Apollo 8, America could claim to be the first nation to send people to the moon, even if the technology to actually land there wasn't ready just yet. But more about that next time on As It Happened, How We Went to the Moon. I'm Doris Dow from the NASA Lunar Science Institute.